For me, LA is LA. It's a good team. It's a good national. I thought they would have been better this year, but expectations were bigger. They started so good. Remember, they just absolutely waxed the Avs early in the season. The Avs were tired, but 3-4, whatever it was. But even the first game of the year, what a hockey game that was. The Avs won that game. Where you're like, oh man, LA's going to be dangerous this year. It just didn't go as planned. But my difference, and I think Rudo just touched on it a little bit. You're in the first round. Yes, depth matters and everything, as you go further and further. But Edmonton Oilers have machine guns. They do. I mean, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, they're machine guns. You know what I mean? And in LA, as we just saw on the screen, it's not even close. You know what I mean? It's not close to that. So I think in the first round, maybe in the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm having a different discussion. In the first round, that's why I think there's a big advantage there for the Edmonton Oilers.
Another episode of our Round 1 playoff previews here at DNVR for the third year in a row. It's the Edmonton Oilers versus the LA Kings, and I think we all expect things to go the same way they've been going in this series.
I accidentally thought that I distilled it down into the best terms when we were talking off air. It's the third year in a row that these two teams have met. Edmonton has won both of them. Edmonton got better this year. LA got worse. Why would you believe that the outcome would be any different?
I wouldn't.
Actually, that's a good way to look at it. It is.
One of these teams was locked into the second spot in the Pacific. One of these teams needed a last-minute comeback in Game 82 against the Chicago Blackhawks to get the third seed in the Pacific.
A team that they gave up 4 goals on 13 shots to.
See how quick that OT goal was, though? Oh, my Lord.
6 seconds.
6 seconds.
Sick.
Let's start with Edmonton's side of it. Obviously, they come in as the higher seed. I think we probably would all agree that they're a better team, and they've dominated LA in the head-to-head this year, if you take anything from that. There's no secret to the recipe that makes the Edmonton Oilers what they are. You have Connor McDavid. You have Leon Draisaitl. You have some of the all-world talent in the NHL driving that bus.
50 goal scorer Zach Hyman.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Well, he's had a privileged upbringing. So.
It's true.
So it's 26.2, not 50.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
To be clear, I'm impressed by Hedman's season.
No one is doubting the offensive talent in Edmonton. It's everything else. That's the question mark.
Defensively, they were better than they have been at any point in this era. The Matthias Ekholm for an entire year has gone wonderfully. Evan Bouchard took a big step forward. Once they finally figured out that Stuart Skinner was the best goaltender for them and they quit messing around with Jack Campbell and everybody kind of settled down after a really horrible start, Edmonton was a top 6 team pretty much most of the season since the coaching change.
Edmonton got better is
they did
the easiest explanation for why they should be stronger even in this series. Looking at how these teams matched up last year, goaltending was the concern last year. It feels like it's solidified, and because they've improved so much defensively, I was looking at the comparison just of D pairings around the league to see how Makar and Taves stacked up this year, and Bouchard and Ekholm together, what they've accomplished is pretty impressive. They've become a steady top pairing, reliable defensively, particularly with Ekholm's contributions in that right, and also some production you can count on from Bouchard. Not only on the power play now, but also at even strength. And so that just makes what is already such an offensive weapon in their forward group even stronger with some production coming from their back end. With goaltending still being a concern for LA, that just doesn't bode very well for them.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'll say. It's such a long year. It's a grueling year in the NHL. It's such a long season. If you take the Edmonton Oilers, what a disastrous first part. Now as a fan or as management or as players, you're like, oh, thank God it was early and not the last 20 or 25 games of the season. You know what I mean? Like, it was so bad. It was almost historically bad.
Look, you have a terrible start, and then you have nearly tying the NHL record for most wins in a row. You kind of watch each other out.
It's unreal. Like it's a tale of two seasons, and then the soup got so hot. Like it was on the burner and it was overflowing. Always goes to food, I know, and it was overflowing, and then all of a sudden they had to like turn the heat off, and then they made harsh decisions. Like Jack Campbell, good human being. It's you know what, like it's not working out. We don't have time to wait. We don't have time for you to find your game. And then they go to Stuart. I always call him Stuart Little, but they go to Stuart Skinner, right? And there's a question mark there. We know that. I think they know that. I think he knows that. I mean, you have to have confidence, but you don't know how that's going to go. But I think LA down the middle, like pretty strong in a sense. That's how they build themselves. And it's been to use AJ's expression. It's been you know what I mean? Like it hasn't been. The Dubois experiment hasn't been good, and the tandem in net, like Copley was gone early in the year, and then obviously Big Save Dave came in, and again Big Save Dave, I love that nickname, but I don't know if it's appropriate to his time.
It's not.
AJ's looking at me like this, but I don't know. And then Cam Talbot, I don't know. I mean, I think that the Edmonton Oilers, it's phenomenal what they were able to do, but they also, like the Avalanche, they freaking Draisaitl, McKinnon, Evan Bouchard's got the best shot in hockey from the point. For me, there's no better shot from the point than Evan Bouchard. So they have weapons that I don't believe the Kings have.
Let me ask you this. Third year in a row, these two teams play each other in the playoffs. Who does that help more?
Well, I think when Edmonton smokes LA in game one, it puts all the pressure on the Kings because the Kings immediately are on the back foot and going, oh, God, not again.
But then don't score an OT yesterday.
Don't get to OT.
Don't get to OT.
Well,
sorry.
Then, what, they get Dallas instead? Like, come on.
I know. Again, I always tell you, like, pick and choose. You just go, right?
I think it benefits Edmonton more because they have more new additions, in my opinion. LA was in a cap hell and wasn't able to make very many moves to help fill in their roster holes in the way that Edmonton was. And so in a series, I think there's a familiarity from both teams, but Edmonton is going to have something a little bit new in, one, how they've just improved defensively too, but their forward group is a little bit deeper than it has been before.
And I have full faith in Edmonton's forward core. I don't know that I have faith in Stuart Skinner, but I think at this point he is what he is. More of a known commodity as an average-ish goaltender.
Yep, that's it.
Which is why my X factor for Edmonton is Darnell Nurse. How does Edmonton's defensive depth hold up through really the entire playoffs more than just this series? Can they go toe-to-toe with some of these other championship caliber defenses?
Yeah, and as Megan mentioned, the Ekholm Bouchard is a true top pairing.
Yep.
So they're paying $9 million for a guy to be on their second pairing. He has to be excellent in that role. Otherwise, it's not great.
There it is. Here it is. We heard it.
On LA's side, Eric kind of already mentioned it. Look, they have pretty darn good center depth. If you look up and down that lineup, Anze Kopitar continues to defy time. You have a breakout year of Quentin Byfield, even if he is playing on the wing. But you also add in a Phil Deneau down that lineup. And for all of the mental question marks about a PLD, still a decent hockey player. The problem is they don't have anyone in the stratosphere of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on that hockey team. And maybe you guys have a better answer than I do, but I just don't know how they make up for that.
Well, I'll jump in right away because that's kind of what I was saying earlier. For me, LA is LA. It's a good team. It's a good national. I thought they would have been better this year, but expectations were bigger. They started so good. Remember, they just absolutely waxed the Avs early in the season. The Avs were tired, but 3-4, whatever it was. But even the first game of the year, what a hockey game that was. The Avs won that game. Where you're like, oh man, LA's going to be dangerous this year. It just didn't go as planned. But my difference, and I think Rudo just touched on it a little bit. You're in the first round. Yes, depth matters and everything, as you go further and further. But Edmonton Oilers have machine guns. They do. I mean, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, they're machine guns. You know what I mean? And in LA, as we just saw on the screen, it's not even close. You know what I mean? It's not close to that. So I think in the first round, maybe in the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm having a different discussion. In the first round, that's why I think there's a big advantage there for the Edmonton Oilers.
I think I want to shout out at LA's team defense as being a strength of that group. And I think their third line, side by side, has more of a scoring threat. But like Eric is saying, the top six for Edmonton is still so loaded that even if LA has a promising third line, it's going to be difficult to provide the goal support that might be necessary in this series where goaltending is questionable on either side. And I'm impressed with the year that Trevor Moore has. I feel like I have to shout out a former DU player. It's been a positive for what's been a very difficult season for LA. And beyond that, though, they just didn't take another big step forward as a team. And that's where LA is going to struggle, I think, in this series.
Sorry, I just want to add just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Coaching change, right?
Yep.
Todd McClellan's is a good X's and O's coach. You know what I mean? Like he built that team a little bit where, you know, again, they're very stingy defensively. And I think new coach came in and, you know, I don't think they lost that because I think the elements of your lineup are what they are. You're not going to go all of a sudden and try to be like McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. They don't have that. So the coaching change really hasn't changed, I think, their style of play. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just what I'm seeing. But the base is there for some of those players the last few years. Like Todd's done a good job at molding those guys and to play real hockey, right? Real 200-foot hockey. So I don't think that's changed, but I don't think that'll be enough.
The reason for hope for Kings fans is that Phil Deneau and Andrei Kopitar are both really good defensive centers. So if they can limit the damage of Draisaitl and McDavid, it gives them a chance. It gives them a puncher's chance, but they need Cam Talbot to be...
Who is my X factor. He's got to stand on his head for them to have a real chance, right?
Yep.
Like, he just has to.
Cam Talbot, I mean, there's plenty of question marks. Can Stuart Skinner win you 4 playoff rounds? Okay, great. They're not trying to win 4 playoff rounds.
Win 1 right now.
They're trying to win 1, and on the other end of the ice is Cam Talbot, who
has a career of average goaltending.
Is nearing the end of his career in the NHL, and after a great start, came back to earth and went back. He course corrected back to being Cam Talbot.
Yep.
And look, in a 7-game series, you know, in a best of 7,
you can get hot for 7 games.
Absolutely, you can have an amazing week and go crazy and just shut it all down. That can happen. Yep. But am I about to pick that?
No,
I am not.
To your point, our predictions are maybe the most straightforward of any series in the West. No one really giving LA a chance in this one.
Except for us.
I mean, I think they can take a game or two because of what AJ mentioned. You have some of the best defensive centers in the league. If you can get Talbot makes an extra save a night or two, I think LA could steal a game or two.
I have respect for the defense of the centers with LA, and even at the top of their D-core, I think can shut things down defensively.
Not to count out Drew Doughty and co, but at the end of the day, the firepower on Edmonton's side, like Eric said, it's just too much.
Yeah, I agree.
So really a pretty straightforward one. We do have more previews covering every single series of round 1. Go check those out in this playlist. And of course, leave your predictions down in the comments. Let us know what you think is going to happen in this series.
We all silly like the mayor.